So we have a big lineup this afternoon, so I'm going to stop rambling and we'll start with our first speaker. Christine is here from Stonehouse Tea. Now, I spent a lot of time at Stonehouse Tea, but I will read the official bio. Christine has had a career wearing many hats, starting in the food and beverage industry as a cook, chef, food and beverage manager, and then also as a culinary instructor at North Island College for 15 years. And then you transitioned into entrepreneurship. So we're super pleased to have you here today. You've been the owner of Stonehouse Tea for 5 years. Stonehouse Tea is a small business here in Campbell River. It's been around for 25 years.
Yes.
I know that you have expanded your market. I know this because my family in other parts of BC order online and get their tea. So today, Christine, you're here to talk about how you build a positive culture in your work amongst your staff and in your workplace. And we are very interested to hear from you. So over to you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Rose, and welcome everyone. I want to start by just thanking the team at Economic Development and the Tidemark Theatre for hosting the event this evening. And I'm honored to be on a panel tonight with Crystal and Kelsey and Chris to talk to you about this important topic. So as Rose mentioned, I've actually been in the food and beverage industry in Campbell River for the past 25 years. So in the late 90s, recruiting, hiring, training for chefs positions, cooks positions in resorts. Then from there, transitioning to culinary arts, where I supported students in finding their first jobs in the food and beverage industry, and helping them guide and plan their careers as a chef and as a cook. And then the last 5 years at Stonehouse Teas, again, back in the service industry, hiring, training for customer service. And I think for me, when I look at what are some of the big changes that have happened over the past 25 years, I think obviously what comes to mind to a lot of people is labor shortage. And we hear a lot about labor shortage and the shortages that are out there. But what I want to do tonight is I want to challenge you to think of it, instead of a labor shortage, as a selection shortage. Because what I see is yes, there is still labor out there, but just way less options than before. So for example, back in the 1990s, I might have had 10 or 12 positions at a resort, and I'd have hundreds of resumes to choose from. Whereas now, I might have one position at Stonehouse Teas and only 2 or 3 applicants. So what happens is I end up looking inwardly and going, what skills do we have at our establishment and what training plans do we have in place that then we can train with, we bring people on board. So it really makes you kind of look inwardly on what are you doing to have people that come on board be trained on the workplace. But for me, Rose, when I look at something that hasn't changed, for me, I look at it as kind of the 3 R's of having employees. And for me, these 3 R's, I feel like these 3 R's have to roll in order for you to be successful with having employees. So when I'm talking about the 3 R's, I'm talking about recruiting, retention, and releasing. So again, recruiting, retention, and releasing. And to me, all 3 of these are very important and they need to roll if you're going to be having success with hiring and employees. So for example, the first one in recruiting, and I know in the food and beverage and the service industry, often the biggest mistake we make is waiting to hire someone till you have a position open. So even if your employee gives you 2 weeks notice, in 2 weeks, you have to find someone, you have to interview them, you have to do reference checks, you need to bring them on board, and you need to train them. And to make that happen in 2 weeks is extremely difficult. So what that means is you're now running short-staffed, putting more pressure on the staff that you do have in that time of transition. So I would challenge you to look at recruiting for the long term and ongoing and have some kind of succession planning on your staff. Talk to your staff, figure out what they're doing. So I have actually a bit of a funny story, and I don't know if Rose remembers this, but I met Rose probably about 4.5, 5 years ago, and Rose came by the tea shop, and she was having tea, and she was commenting what a lovely little shop it was and how much she enjoyed tea. And I asked her, when are you retiring from the city? And of course she laughed, and I said, well, no, seriously, when you look at retiring, perhaps this might be a good fit for you, kind of work part-time, drink some tea, sell some tea. And again, what was I doing there? As I was planning for the future. And I'm actually going to hold Rose to that. I don't know how many more years she has. No pressure. But, the other thing what's interesting is just the other day, Kelsey, who's here with us tonight, she was in line picking up her Americano. And she said to me, I always thought it would be neat to be a barista. And I said, well, Kelsey, you never know. As life changes, as your boys move out and go off to university, maybe you want to change your careers. Maybe you want to come on board to a place like Stonehouse Teas, and we'll teach you those barista skills. So again, it's planning and looking ahead to the future instead of waiting until I have a job open. And the one real benefit we have tonight is we have Chris from NIAFS, and he's going to talk to you about some of the things locally that are available for you to help recruit employees. The next one in the R's is retention. So obviously this is a very big, important area. You've gone to the work to hire and train and bring someone on board. What are you going to do to retain those employees? And I honestly could sit in this chair for the next 2 hours and talk about things that you can do. But there's other speakers that are also going to speak to this. But know for me, there's a lot of things that I do at even my small business to help retain my employees. And again, a very big benefit we have tonight is Kelsey's with us tonight. And she's going to talk to us about why employees leave their jobs. Why are employees moving on? And what are some of these things that we can do to help retain our staff? And then the last one that I actually think is quite important and often is forgotten is releasing. We need to allow our staff to move on and move on in a positive manner. Because if you do that, they will do the recruiting for you. And a lot of times in the service industry, we hire someone and we think, well, they're going to be a cook, a dishwasher, a server for the rest of their life. It's very unlikely. They're probably in a transitional stage. Maybe they're saving money to go to school. Maybe they want to buy a car. But if you can make their experience working for you and positive when they leave, there's a good chance they will tell other people. And they might even come back and work for you later or part-time while they're in school or all these types of things. So we need to allow our staff to move on in a positive manner. And then that helps to go with the recruiting, which you can, and then you can work on retention. And all these things can kind of roll along. And I think if you can look at all of these areas in your business, you can be very successful with staffing, hiring, and having employees. So next, what I want to do is I want to share a little bit of my toolkit. And what I want to do is I want to talk to you about the qualities that I have to achieve my success in hiring. And I think when we look at these, what are some of the qualities? So for me, the first one is I'm responsive. So when people are interested in working at Stonehouse Teas, I make sure I respond to them, whether it's a Facebook post, whether it's an Instagram comment, whether they show up at the door. I always make sure I take the time to respond to them and also let them know where things are at with the business, whether I have positions or when positions will be available. The next one is enthusiastic. I'm very enthusiastic, and I feel like enthusiasm is contagious, and I'm constantly trying to spread that with all of my staff and all of my customers, and I feel like that is part of what we are. The next one's supportive. I'm very supportive of my staff. I realize that my staff have lives outside of Stonehouse Teas. They have kids, they have families, they have basketball practice, soccer, exams, all those types of things. So we work together to support the staff through all of that and adjust the schedule so that they feel supported and part of it. But the next one's positive. I'm a glass half full, sometimes to the annoying point, but I'm always looking at the positive of things, and I'm thinking, how can we take this challenge and turn it into an opportunity? How can we take the mistake that we just made and look at it as learning from it and moving forward as opposed to dwelling on it? So I'm always looking at where can we flip this and how can we make this positive? The next one is ethical. I stand true to my word. I always try to walk in other people's shoes, and I always treat people exactly how I would want to be treated. The next one is communicator. I love to make sure that I communicate with my staff so they know what is up and coming, changes, new things, everything that's happening. There's nothing worse than being part of a team and having no idea what's going on. So I feel like communication is a really key aspect. And the last one's thorough. I train, I retrain, I continue to train, and I make sure that it's very clear expectations with my staff, and I'm very thorough on those things. As you saw in the video, we have training manuals and things in place to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. And then, of course, the last one is respect. And I feel like when you respect people as other human beings, I believe all humans want to work hard. They want to be successful at what they do. And I feel like when you give respect, you'll be able to receive it back. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to end tonight with a challenge for you. And what I want you to do is take a few minutes and think about what are the qualities that you have. What are those qualities? And then my number one question would be, why would I want to come and work for you? So thank you, and feel free to reach out at any time if you have questions. I'm happy to have a tea or coffee, and thanks so much for having me.